Can everyone hear my voice clearly?
Yes, it's loud and clear.
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you, everyone. So I am Brigita Natalia Naibaho, and I will be your moderator for today's marathon session. We have a total of 11 students who will be presenting their research proposal today. Before we start, I would like to welcome our Honorable Board of Examiners, Professor Dr. Syafrizal MPD. Thank you, Prof, for being with us today. Okay, to ensure our seminar runs smoothly, please follow these guidelines, okay, everyone? First, each student has 10 until 11 minutes to present. Second, all participants must remain mute unless called upon. And this is the important. We will hold a collective Q&A and feedback session after all 11 students have finished their presentations. So I encourage the examiners and participants to take notes during the presentations. So without any further ado, let's start with our first presenter, Nadya Maulida. Nadya Maulida, the floor is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Check. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, Prof. Syafrizal and the members of the board. My name is Nadya Maulida, and today I will defend my research proposal, the correlation between reading motivation and reading comprehension of EFL students. The core of this research is to investigate how student internal drive relates to their ability to construct meaning from English texts. I would like to jump straight into the urgency of this study. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the background of this study is rooted in a persistent issue, is the low reading proficiency of Indonesian EFL students. While many local studies focus on internal methods, I am focusing on internal affective state, and my research gap is specific. Most studies analyze university students, and I am targeting 10th grade learners, as this is a critical transition year from general English to academic. And my research question is there a statistically significant correlation between variable X, or motivation, and variable Y, comprehension? We can see in the next slide. So this is my research gap and research question. First is prior studies bundle motivation with reading habits or self-efficacy. And there is a lack of isolated correlation analysis, specifically for 10th grade EFL learners in this region. And is there a significant relationship between reading motivation and reading comprehension among EFL learners at the senior high school level? Next slide. Okay, so next for the research objective, there is a three objectives here. The first is to identify the levels of reading motivation among 10th grade EFL students using the MRQ framework. Two is to analyze the statistical correlation between motivational scores and comprehension test outcomes. And the last is to provide empirical data for educators to refine motivational strategies in the classroom. And theoretically, this study clarifies the role of motivation in the cognitive process. And next slide. Okay. Now here, back to the previous. Okay. And this is the significance of the research. First is theoretical value. To expand EFL literature by isolating motivation is a primary driver of cognitive processing in reading tasks. And for the practical value, is to offer a framework for teachers to move beyond teaching the text toward engaging the reader. Next slide. So now we move to the chapter 2. There is a literature review and framework. First, literature review. In the chapter 2, I draw from Guthries engagement model. Reading is not just a cognitive skill, it is a motivated act. You can see the reading motivation variable is X. This is a multi-dimensional contract, intrinsic goals, extrinsic reward, and self-belief. And for the reading comprehension with variable Y, an active construction process whereby readers link to the existing knowledge to make meaning. And for the self-determination theory, or SDT, suggests that autonomous motivation leads to deeper cognitive engagement and better outcomes. Next. And for the framework, variable X is measured through the MRQ, or motivation for reading questionnaires, which includes 11 dimensions. And variable Y is the measured through comprehension levels. There is literal, inferential, and evaluative. I hypothesis a positive linear correlation. Next. And for the hypothesis, for this research, I have formulated two hypotheses. The first is H null or 0. There is no significant correlation. And for H1 or alternative, there is a significant positive correlation, and I will test this at the 0.05 level of significance. Next slide. Okay, so now we move to the chapter 3, or the methodology. My research methodology is a quantitative correlational research designed in order to investigate the correlation between the independent variable, reading motivation, and the dependent variable, or reading comprehension. Next. Okay. Population and sampling. My population is 62 students, and I am using total sampling. I choose this because a consensus approach provides the highest level of precision for a population of this size. Next. Okay, for the instrument, first is for variable X. For reading, I translated the MRQ into Indonesian to avoid a bias, as we are measuring memorization, not translation skills. I will conduct a validity and reliability test, or from Converge Alpha, before the main data collection. And 2, for variable Y, or reading comprehension, the reading test is based on the syllabus of the 10th grade, ensuring content validity. And for the data analysis, I will use person's product moment, or SPSS, and before that, I will conduct normality and linearity test to ensure the data meets the requirements of parametric statistics. Next. Okay. Here's the activity and the target audience of this research. And the study will take 4 months, beginning with the pilot study. My references include recent works from 2021 to 2025, ensuring the study is grounded in current EFL theories. And for the first phase, we have preparation, translation, back translation, and pilot testing. Next is collection, standardized testing session for X and Y variable. The next is analysis, statistical analysis using SPSS, Pearson correlation, and for the last phase is finalization, correlation results, and the thesis writing. Next slide. This is my references for the research from 2021 to 2025. So that's all for me. Thank you for your attention and consideration. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you Nadya Maulida. Well done. Now moving on to our second presenter. Gita, please share your screen.
All right, thank you for the opportunity, moderator. All right, thank you for your help in my sharing screen, Astried Putri. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, good morning. So, here I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Gita with the student ID 22232230080. I'm coming from English Education Department. And I would like to share my seminar proposal with the title Student Perception in the Role of AI-Powered Conversational Agents in Reducing Speaking Anxiety and Enhancing Oral Proficiency. Next slide, please. All right, so oral proficiency has long been considered the ultimate objective of a language learner, as the ability to speak fluently and accurately is at the heart of a real-world communication. Nevertheless, to a large extent, speaking is even more challenging than the others for English as a foreign language or EFL learners. So the situation of such speakers being terrified of oral text, known as foreign language speaking anxiety, can create a debilitating cycle where fear of committing errors, being evaluated negatively, or even just not being understood may all lead to a person avoiding a speaking practice season. After all, practice is the primary means of the learner opening up to and strengthening communication with the language. Technological development in the educational sector, for instance, those involving artificial intelligence, offer a glimmer of hope as far as breaking the vicious circle is considered. AI-powered conversational agents or chatbots, digital tutors that come with automatic speech recognition or ASR, and natural language processing technologies are among the most exciting advances that allow the user to carry on a spoken conversation with a non-judgmental and patient digital speaker that never tires and is always willing to interact with ourselves. Next slide, please. So the next slide is about my research gap. So Slug AI conversational agents are improving their technological capabilities at a fast speed, but the pedagogical research is still left behind. So, however, there is still limited understanding of how frequent interaction with AI conversational agents influence learner speaking anxiety and confidence in real life communication. So, many review studies mainly focus on experimental designs or short-term technological evaluation. As a result, the real experience of learners who regularly practice speaking with AI tools are still unexplored. So, does the lower anxiety caused by human-machine interaction help to lower the anxiety in real-life human conversation too? Furthermore, current literature is fragmented and very few studies investigated a learner's personal experience and perception regarding the casual use of AI conversational agents in speaking development. Next slide, please. So this is my research question. I have three research questions. The first is, does the lower anxiety caused by human-machine interaction help to lower the anxiety in real human conversation too, or no? The second is, how frequent interaction with AI conversational agents influence learner speaking anxiety and confidence in real life communication. And the last is how university students experience practicing English speaking with AI-powered conversational agents. Next, there are a research objective. Also, there are three research objectives. The first is to explore how lower anxiety by speaking practice with AI reduce the anxiety in real life communication too. The second is to find out students who frequently interact with AI tools for speaking practice has improved their speaking or not. And the last is to gather in-depth insight through interviews with university students who already use AI conversational agents. Next slide, please. There are my research significant. The first one is this research is expected to provide a deeper understanding of how AI conversational agents influence students' speaking anxiety levels and oral proficiency in speaking. And the second is the finding my reveal whether practicing with AI helps students feel more comfortable expressing their ideas in English and whether it encourages them to practice speaking more frequently. And the last is it is expected that those individuals who casually practice speaking with the AI agents will show a significant statistical decrease in their self-reported FLSS scores and at the same time an increase in their oral proficiency. Next slide. Right, so I have examined my theories here. The first is AI and language learning. The second is foreign language speaking anxiety or FLSA. And the third is AI conversational agents and speaking practice. And the last is about the previous studies. Next slide, please. Alright, so I was cited two theories here. The first is artificial intelligence or AI has become an important technological development in the field of education, including language learning, AI-powered tools such as conversational agents, chatbots, and virtual assistants are increasingly used to support learning activities. This is by Godwin Jones, 2024. And the second is AI technologies can create interactive learning environments where students can practice language skills repeatedly and receive immediate response. This flexibility allows learners to practice anytime and everywhere. This is I was stated by Erita et al. In 2021. Next slide, please. Next, about foreign language speaking anxiety. So, foreign language speaking anxiety, or FLSR, is one of the most common challenges faced by language learners, especially it was about the second language. It refers to the feeling of nervousness, fear, or a discomfort experienced when speaking in a foreign language. And next is language anxiety often occurs because learners are afraid of making mistakes, being judged by others, by the friend, or not being able to express their ideas clearly. This anxiety can negatively affect learners' performance. Next slide, please. So next is about AI conversational agents and speaking practice. So AI conversational agents can provide an alternative environment for speaking practice, unlike human conversation partners. AI systems do not judge learners or criticize the mistakes in judging way. And next is interacting with AI agents can reduce student anxiety and increase their willingness to communicate. Students reported feeling less nervous when speaking with AI compared to speaking with human partners. This is I said for Fry et al. In 2020. Next slide, please. This is the last one. Was the previous study. So several studies have investigated the use of AI and chatbots in language learning. So Lee and John 2022 examined that the impact of conversational AI on student speaking performance is increase their oral proficiency, and AI tools can provide additional opportunities for language practice. Many studies still focus on experimental data rather than learners' personal experience, so I decided to make this in the student perception. Next slide, please. Next slide is about my methodology used in this research. The first one about the research design. So this research was uses qualitative research designs. Uh, the study focused on exploring student experience and perception regarding the use of AI conversational agents for practicing English speaking. Next slide, please. I chose the design because I think it's very nice to use, and it was the the right method for my research. Next, there are my participants. The participants of this research are university students who frequently practice speaking with uh, AI conversational agents. So I will make a questionnaire, and then if there are frequently using AI for speaking practice, I will let them know that I want to make a interview to collect my data, and the participant will be selected using confidence sampling, that is the respondent that are confidence for me in my place or in the campus. Next slide, please. So next, there are instruments. So the main research or instrument used in my study is semi-structured interview. The interview will include several open-ended questions. Next slide, please. And next, there are the data collection and data analysis. The data will be collected through individual interview with the selected participants. Each interview will last approximately 5 until 15 minutes, and the collected data will be analyzed using thematic analysis. And the last is the researchers will follow several steps in analyzing the data. Next slide, please. And the data analysis step I will use is transcribing the interview recordings, reading the transcript carefully to understand the participant response. The third is identifying important themes related to speaking anxiety, confidence, and AI usage. And the last is interpreting the finding to explain how AI conversational agents influence students' speaking experience. Next slide, please. All right, so I think that's all for my seminar proposal presentation. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Gita. And so next is Nici Setyawati. So Nici Setyawati, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brigita. Okay, thank you, Astried. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nici Setyawati. I'm from English Education Department. Today, I would like to present my research proposal entitled From Entertainment to Education, 6th-semester student perception of English movie with English subtitle as a tool for vocabulary mastery enhancement learning. Next slide, please. First, I would like to explain the background of this study. Vocabulary mastery is considered a crucial factor in determining learners' communicative competence in English language teaching. It plays an important role in supporting the four main language skills, namely listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In fact, when learners have sufficient vocabulary, they're able to express their ideas more clearly, both in spoken and written communication. However, learning vocabulary is not an easy process. Many learners still perceive vocabulary as one of the most difficult aspects of language learning. According to Mubarak and Rizal 2025, limited vocabulary become one of the main reasons why EFL learners struggle to learn English. This indicates that vocabulary is not only important but also challenging for many students In the current digital era, media has become an important part of language learning among various types of media. Video streaming platforms such as Netflix have gained popularity. This platform can be used as learning tools with computer assisted language learning or CAL. CAL allow learners to interact with digital technology to support their language learning process. According to Sahrir and Abdurrell 2022, streaming platform provide authentic exposure to language and also increase learners' motivation. Furthermore, English movie with English subtitles offer a combination of audio and visual input. This combination helps learners understand meaning more easily because they can both hear and read the language at the same time. In addition, movies provide contextual learning. Learners are not only exposed to vocabulary but also the expressions, pronunciation, and even cultural aspect of language use. Therefore, English movie with subtitle can be seen not only as entertainment but also as an effective tool for vocabulary learning. Next slide, please. However, despite the increasing use of movie in language learning, several gaps still exist in previous study. Previous research has shown that watching subtitle movie can improve vocabulary learning, particularly in terms of comprehension and receptive vocabulary acquisition. For example, some studies indicate that students are able to recognize and understand new words after watching subtitle movies. However, most of these studies mainly focus on cognitive outcomes, such as test score or vocabulary improvement, and are often limited to specific educational levels. Moreover, some studies rely on the single data collection method, such as interview. This limits in the depth and variation of the data because it does not capture both numerical pattern and detailed experience. Therefore, this study attempts to fill this gap by combining both quantitative and qualitative approach. Specifically, this research used questionnaire to collect general pattern and interview to explore student experience in more depth. In additional, this study focused not only on vocabulary improvement but also on student perception and motivations, which are still underexplored. Next slide, please. Based on this gap, this study is guided by two main research questions. First, what are student perception about using English movie with English subtitle for learning new words? Second, what motivation leads students to choose English movie with English subtitle as a self-learning vocabulary strategy? Next slide, please. The objective of the study are aligned with the research questions. The first objective is to investigating student perception about learning new words by watching English movie with English subtitle. Second, discovering the reason why students choose English movie with English subtitle as a vocabulary self-learning method. Next slide, please. The study is expected to provide several contributions. One of the part of student is performing this research can lead students to be more conscious of effective and at the same time interesting strategy of independent vocabulary learning through English movie with subtitle. On the part of the teacher, the outcome of this research might help teachers to integrate multimedia research, especially movie with subtitle in the classroom to improve student vocabulary skill. On the part of future researcher, this research can be a basis for further investigations, particularly for those who want to use a combination of qualitative and quantitative approach to find out about language learning strategy. Next slide, please. The study is based on three main concepts. First is perception. Perception refers to how learners interpret and respond to their learning experience. It plays an important role because student perception influence their engagement and motivation in learning. Second is English movie with subtitle. This type of media combines audiovisual input with textual and support. As a result, learners can connect listening and vocabulary learning more effectively. Third is vocabulary mastery. Vocabulary mastery is essential for language proficiency because it allows learners to understand and use language appropriately in context. These three concepts are interconnected and form the basis of the study. Next slide, please. This study is supported by two main theories. The first is dual coding theory, which is explained that learning becomes more effective when information is processed through both visual and auditory channels stimulations. It's based on PIVO 1991. And second is computer assistant language learning or CALL, which emphasizes the role of digital technology in supporting language learning. Watching movie with subtitle is an example of how learners use technology to learn independently. Next slide, please. Previous study has highlighted the benefit of using English movie with subtitle for vocabulary learning. For instance, a study in 2016, a site in Armanda et al. 2021 found that subtitle helps students understand movie content and learn new vocabulary. Another study by Belalem at 2018, cited in Bostanchi 2022, also showed that subtitle can improve vocabulary understanding. However, this study mainly focused on cognitive outcomes, such as comprehension and vocabulary improvement. They do not deeply explore student perception and motivation, which are important in understanding how and why students use this method. Therefore, this study aims to address this limitation. Next slide, please. The study uses a mixed method descriptive design. Quantitative data are collected through a Likert scale questionnaire, which measure student perception and motivation. The questionnaire includes several indicators such as perceived usefulness, engagement, and learning motivations. Meanwhile, qualitative data are collected through in-depth interview, which allows students to share their experience, benefit, and challenge in using English movie with subtitle. The participants of this study are 26 semester students from the English Education Department at Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. They are selected using purposive sampling based on specific criteria such as their experience in watching English movie with subtitle. Next slide, please. For data analysis, this study used both quantitative and qualitative technique. Quantitative data are analyzed using statistical method such as mean score and percentage to identify general pattern. Meanwhile, qualitative data are analyzed using thematic analysis, which involve transcription, coding, identifying pattern, and developing tips. This combination allows the researcher to gain both general and in-depth understanding of student perception and motivation. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. In conclusion, this study aimed to explore student perception and motivation in using English movie with English subtitle as a tool for vocabulary learning. It is expected that this research will contribute to both theory and practice in English language teaching. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Nici Setyawati. So next up is presenter 4, Astried Pratama Putri. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for moderator Brigita. Wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone, my name is Astried Pratama Putri. Today I would like to present my research proposal, and the title is the effect of using YouTube short on students' vocabulary mastery at wait, at junior high school. Okay, first is background of the study. Vocabulary mastery plays a crucial role in English language learning because it supports students in understanding and producing language across all skills. However, many students still struggle with vocabulary due to limited exposure and the use of traditional learning methods such as memorization, which often lack meaningful context. In today's digital era, students are more engaged with interactive and visually rich content. Short-form videos such as YouTube Short offer concise and engaging learning materials with that combine visual context, pronunciation, and repetition, which might help students understand and retain vocabulary more effectively. Next is based on background. There are three research questions and this study. The first is what is the student's vocabulary mastery before using YouTube Short? And the second is what is the student's vocabulary mastery after using YouTube Short? And the third is there a significant effect of using YouTube Short on students' vocabulary mastery? And in line with these three questions, there are three objectives of this study. The first is to identify the level of students' vocabulary mastery before the implementation of YouTube Short in learning. Next, two is to identify the level of students' vocabulary mastery after the implementation of YouTube Short in learning. And third is to determine whether the use of YouTube Short has a significant effect on students' vocabulary mastery. Next is the significance of the study. The study aims to investigate the effect of using YouTube Short on students' vocabulary mastery. The use of short-form video is expected to provide meaningful exposure, contextual learning, and repeated input that can help students understand and retain vocabulary more effectively. In addition, the study is expected to contribute to the development of English language learning, especially in the use of digital media such as YouTube Short. It may also provide practical insight for teachers to use more engaging and innovative learning media in the classroom. Next is the study. The study is supported by several theories. The first is vocabulary is a fundamental component in learning English, as it enables learners to understand and express meaning effectively. Vocabulary mastery involves not only knowing words' meaning but also understanding their use in context. Vocabulary acquisition is influenced by exposure and meaningful input. Repeated exposure to vocabulary in context helps learners retain and understand words more effectively. In addition, incidental learning allows students to acquire vocabulary through engaging activities rather than direct memorization. Furthermore, audiovisual media plays an important role in language learning because it is combined visual and auditory input, which can improve student comprehension and memory. Therefore, short-form videos such as YouTube Short can provide contextual, engaging, and repeated exposure that uh, that support student vocabulary mastery. And next is previous study. Several studies have highlighted the effectiveness of YouTube as a learning medium in improving vocabulary mastery. For instance, Kabuha and Elias found that YouTube videos can enhance students' vocabulary comprehension and engagement. Similarly, Sully et al. Showed that students can learn vocabulary more independently through repeated exposure to video context. However, most of these studies focus on general YouTube videos. Research that specifically examines short-form video content, such as YouTube Short, is still limited. In fact, short videos are increasingly popular among students because they are concise, engaging, and easily accessible through digital device. Therefore, it is important to investigate whether YouTube Short can be an effective learning medium in improving student vocabulary mastery. And then research method and data collection. This study uses a quantitative approach to examine the effect of YouTube Short on student vocabulary mastery. The research design applied is a pre-experimental design, specifically a one-group pretest and post-test design. In this study, data are collected through three main stages. First is starting with a pretest to measure student initial vocabulary mastery, and then followed by the treatment using YouTube Short as a learning medium, and last is ending with a post-test to measure student vocabulary after the treatment. Next is population and example of this research. The population of this study consists of 8th grade students at a junior high school in Putri. The sample includes one class consisting of 35 students selected using purposive sampling. The sample is chosen based on several considerations such as students' prior experience in learning vocabulary, their difficulties in mastering vocabulary, and the feasibility of conducting the research in the selected class. Next is research procedure. The research is conducted through several stages that are arranged systematically. The first is students are given a pre-test to measure their initial vocabulary mastery. After that, students receive the treatment using YouTube Short during several meetings where they are exposed to vocabulary through visual content, pronunciation, and repetition. And the last is a post-test is administered to measure student improvement after the treatment. This procedure is used to determine whether the treatment has an effect on student vocabulary mastery. Next is data analysis. The data in this study are analyzed using both descriptive and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics are used to summarize student score, including the mean, minimum score, maximum score, and standard deviation. Before conducting hypothesis testing, a normality test using the Shapiro-Wilk test is performed to determine whether the data are normally distributed. After that, a paired sample t-test is used to analyze whether there is a significant difference between the pre-test and the post-test results. The level of significance used in this study is 0.05. And in conclusion, this study aims to investigate the effect of YouTube Short on students' vocabulary mastery. It is expected that the use of short-form videos can provide a more engaging and effective way for students to learn vocabulary. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Astried Pratama Putri. Okay, so the next presenter is me, Brigita Natalia Naibaho, as a moderator. For Astried, can you share my presentation? Okay. Sip. Thank you, Astried Pratama Putri. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, honorable examiners and my supervisor. Professor Dr. Syafrizal MPD. Thank you for the opportunity given to me today. My name is Brigita Natalia Naibaho, and my student number is 222-323-0058. And today I would like to present my research proposal titled The Correlation Between Foreign Language Listening Anxiety (FLLA) and Listening Achievement Among 6th-semester EFL students at Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is background of the problem or background of the study. Moving on the background, as we know, listening is the primary channel for language input. However, many EFL students perceive it as the most difficult skill. Unlike reading, listening happens in real time. Once the sound is gone, it's gone. This high cognitive load often creates a mental block. When students miss a word, they panic. Of course, they panic. And this panic, or we know as anxiety, interrupts their concentration, leading to poor performance. This is why I believe investigating the psychological aspect, specifically foreign language listening anxiety or FLLA, is crucial. Next slide, please. Okay, so based on that background, this study addresses three main questions. What is the level of FLLA among our 6th-semester students? Next is what is their current level of listening achievement? And most importantly, is there a significant correlation between these two variables? The objective is clear: to assess these anxiety levels, determine the achievement scores through standardized tests, and analyze the intensity of the relationship between them. Next slide. So the objectives of the study, I have assessed, determined, and analyzed. Assess is classify 6th-semester EFL student levels of foreign language listening anxiety into low, medium, and high categories. Determine is calculate scores for listening comprehension achievement using standardized proficiency measures, and analyze is ascertain the intensity and direction of the association between anxiety and achievement variables. Next slide, please. Okay. Why is this study significant? Because first is theoretically it strengthens the affective filter hypothesis by Stephen Krashen. Practically, it helps lecturers design better strategies to lower classroom anxiety. And for students, it builds self-awareness that their struggle might not be a lack of intelligence, but a psychological barrier that can be managed. Next slide, please. Okay. In the literature review, I focus on the nature of FLLA. It is triggered by many factors, many factors. The speed of the speaker, unfamiliar vocabulary, or even the fear of failure. Bottom up is building meaning from sounds. Anxiety disrupts this when learners get stuck on single words, and top down is using context or pure knowledge. Anxious learners often fail to use this effectively. Next slide, please. So, in my conceptual framework, variable X is foreign language listening anxiety, and variable variable Y is listening achievement. I hypothesize that when variable X goes up, variable Y tends to go down. This suggests a negative correlation where anxiety acts as a filter that prevents input from being processed effectively. Next slide, please. So, therefore, I have formulated two hypotheses. The first hypothesis is the null hypothesis. There is no significant correlation, and next hypothesis is alternative hypothesis. There is a significant negative correlation between listening anxiety and listening achievement. Next slide, please. So, this is the research methodology. For the methodology, I will use a quantitative correlation design. The population consists of 6 semester English education students at Untirta, with a sample of approximately 15 to 16 students. I will use two main instruments. Oh, next slide, please. So, I will use two main instruments. The first instrument is DFLLA's, or Foreign Language Listening Anxiety Scale, which is a 33 item. And the next instruments, or second instruments, is a TOEFL ITP listening simulation to measure their actual achievement. So this is both instruments have been tested for validity and reliability in previous studies. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the data analysis plan. After collecting the data, I will perform prerequisite tests, including normality and linearity. To test the hypothesis, I will use the Pearson product moment correlation using SPSS version 26, and this will tell us not only if there is a correlation, but also how strong that correlation is. Next slide, please. So, to wrap up, I truly believe that by understanding the heart and the mind of the learner, we can improve the way we teach language. And for the last time to read the quote is, listening is a skill that requires mind to be quiet so the heart can understand. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention, everyone. I am now ready for your questions, comments, and suggestions to improve this my proposal. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, so that's all from me. Next presenter is Nihlatunnajwa. So for Nihlatunnajwa, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Brigita. So, Astried, can you share my PPT? Okay, thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nihlatunnajwa. My student number is 22232301115. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Today, I'm going to present my research proposal about the use of English songs and its effect on student speaking motivations. So next slides, please. Okay, the first is background of the study. Speaking is not only about using vocabulary and grammar, but also about having the confidence to communicate in reality. Many students feel shy and nervous when they have to speak English in class. These conditions make them less active during learning activities. One of the main factors that influence this situation is motivations. Students with low motivation tend to avoid speaking activities, while motivated students are more willing to participate. So in real classroom situations, many students still hesitate to speak English. Even when they understand the material, they prefer to stay silent. This happens not only because of limited vocabulary of grammar, but also because of psychological factors such as fear of making mistakes, anxiety, and also low confidence. These factors are closely related to motivations. When students have low motivation, they tend to avoid speaking activities, and this affects their overall learning process. The next slide, please. Okay, based on the conditions, I've formulated the main problem of this study. The first is, what is students' motivations before using English songs? And next is, what is students' motivation after using English songs? And last is, does the use of English songs have an effect on students' motivation in speaking activities? Based on that conditions, the main problem identified in this study is students' low motivation in speaking activities. Students are often passive and not actively involved in classroom interactions. This shows that the issue is not only about ability, but also about willingness to participate. Therefore, teachers need to use more engaging and also meaningful learning media to attract student interest. And one of the alternatives that can be used is English song. Next is okay. Here are the research objectives. To address this problem, I set several objectives for this research. And the first, to determine level of student motivation in speaking activities before the use of English songs in instructions. And second is to determine the level of student motivation in speaking activities after the use of English songs in instructions. And the third is to determine whether the use of English songs can increase students' motivations in speaking activities. And last is to explore the extent to which song use can be utilized as an effective tool in teaching students motivations in speaking skills. The objective of this study are first to identify student motivation in speaking activities before the use of English song. Second is to identify their motivation after the treatment. And the third, to examine whether the use of English songs gives a significant effect on student motivation in speaking activities or not. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay, so after explaining the objects, I will now present the expected benefit of this study. So the first is theoretical benefits. The research contributes to English language teaching, especially in using English songs to enhance student speaking motivations, and also can serve as a reference for future studies. And the second is practical benefits for students and also teachers. This research helps students improve their motivations and confidence in speaking, and provides teachers with an engaging and interactive teaching strategy using English songs. And the last is practical benefit for future researchers. This research can be used as a reference for further studies related to motivations and speaking in EFL learning. This study is expected to provide both theoretical and practical contributions. Theoretically, it supports existing theories in English language teachings, especially regarding to the use of enjoyable media to improve students' motivations. And practically, it can help students become more confident and active in speaking, assist teachers in creating a more engaging learning environment, and also serve as a useful reference for future researchers. Okay, next. So to support this research, I will first discuss the relevant theories, starting with speaking. Speaking is an interactive process of constructing meaning that involves both producing and receiving information. However, many students experience difficulties in speaking due to limited vocabulary, lack of confidence, and fear of making mistakes, which can reduce their participation in classroom activities. So speaking is an interactive process where students produce language and also respond to others at the same time. It is considered a complex skill because it requires quick thinking, appropriate vocabulary, and correct pronunciation. Many students face difficulties in speaking because they are afraid of making mistakes and being judged by others, which reduces their willingness to participate. Besides speaking, motivation is also an important factor, so I will explain it next. And motivation is a key factor in language learning. Drive students to initiate and maintain their learning process. It can be classified into intrinsic and also extrinsic motivations. Students with higher motivation tends to be more active and confident in participating in speaking activities. So, motivation plays a very important role in language learning because it acts as a driving force for students to learn and participate. It also influences how much effort students put into learning and how persistent they are when facing difficulties. Students with high motivation are usually more confident, more active, and also more willing to take risks, such as speaking in foreign language. Then I connect this with the use of English songs as a learning medium. For song, English songs can be used as an effective learning medium because they provide authentic language input and expose students to pronunciations, vocabulary, and also natural expressions. In addition, songs can reduce students' anxiety and create a more enjoyable learning environment. English songs can be used as an effective learning medium because they combine language with rhythm and emotions. Songs provide authentic input and expose students to natural pronunciations and also vocabulary. In addition, songs create a more relaxed and enjoyable atmosphere in the classroom. These conditions help reduce anxiety and make students feel more comfortable, which can increase their motivation to participate in speaking activities. Next slide. Okay, based on those theories, I developed the conceptual framework of this study. Based on the theories discussed, the study assumed that English songs can influence learning media as a variable X. Can influence student motivation in speaking activities, and also for student motivation in speaking activities is the dependent variable of variable Y. The idea is that enjoyable learning experience through songs can increase students' interest, confidence, and also participation. Through activities such as listening, singing, and also discussing lyrics, students are expected to become more interested, confident, and also active in speaking English. And next, please. Okay, after understanding the framework, I will now explain the research methodology. Oh, sorry, I mean hypothesis. So in this hypothesis, I have two hypotheses. The first is null hypothesis. There is no significant effect of using English songs on students' motivation in speaking activities. And the second is alternative hypothesis. There is a significant effect of using English songs on students' motivation in speaking activities. So in this study, two hypotheses are formulated. The null hypothesis states that there is no significant effect of using English songs on student motivation. Meanwhile, the alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant effect, and the result of the data analysis will determine which hypothesis is accepted. Next slide, please. Okay, the next is research method. Research method or methodology. This study uses a quantitative method with a pre-experimental design. Specifically, it applies a one-group pre-test and post-test design to measure changes in student motivation before and after the treatment. This study uses a quantitative approach because the researcher aims to measure changes in student motivation in a numerical form. The design used is pre-experimental with a one-group pre-test and post-test design. This design allows the researchers to compare students' motivation before and after the treatment within the same group. Next, please. Okay, next I will describe the participant involved in this study. Okay, the participants of this study are junior high school students, and the sample consists of around 25 to 30 students selected using purposive sampling. I think the participant is just one class students, And this means the participants are chosen based on specific criteria that are relevant to the objectives of the study. Next, please. Okay, after that, I will explain the instrument used to collect the data. The instrument used in this study is a questionnaire because motivation cannot be observed directly. It is measured through student response. The questionnaire uses a Likert scale 1 until 5. And this is the example of questions. The first is, I feel interested in participating in English speaking activities. I feel more confident speaking English after learning with songs. And the last example is, I participate more actively when English songs are used in learning. This consists of 20 items that represent several indicators such as interest, confidence, participations, and also willingness. Okay, next. Okay, the procedure. The research procedure start with a pre-test to measure students' initial motivations. After that, treatment is conducted using English songs in several learning. And also during this session, students are involved in activities such as listening, understanding, and also discussing the songs. And finally, test is given to identify any changes in student motivations. Once the data are collected, they will be analyzed using the following method. The data are analyzed using a paired sample t-test to compare the result of the pre-test and post-test and determine whether there is a significant effect of the treatment. So the data obtained from the questionnaire and analyzed using paired simple t-test. And also it helps determine whether the difference between pre-test and also post-test result is statistically significant. Next. And here are several selected bibliography that I used in this proposal. Next. Okay, based on this study, it is expected that the use of English songs can positively influence students' motivation in speaking activities and create a more engaging learning environment. I think that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Nihlatunnajwa. So now let's hear from presenter 7, Nabila Septiani. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Brigita, for the opportunity. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Nabila Septiani from class 6D. Today, I'll be presenting my research proposal titled A Cooperative Study of EFL Student Competence in Detecting Idiomatic Translation Errors in ChatGPT and Google Translate. In simple terms, this study is about whether students can spot the translation mistake that AI tools make and whether certain tools are harder to catch mistake in than others. I hope by the end of the session, you'll see why this question really matters for us as EFL students and future language educators. So let's start. Next slide, please. All right, here's a quick overview of what I'll cover today. There are the background, the research gap and question, the theoretical framework, the methodology, and finally the research significance. Next slide, please. So let me start with the background. AI has changed a lot of things, and translation is one of them. Today, anyone can open their phone and instantly translate any text. For EFL students like us, translation is more than just a skill, it's how we access knowledge and understand other cultures. So, as AI tools become more common, the question in language education has shifted. It's no longer just how do we translate, it's how do we know if the machine actually got it right. And one area where machines constantly struggle is idiom. An idiom is fixed expression whose meaning cannot be guessed from the word alone. For example, panjang tangan literally means long-handed, but idiomatically it means someone who tend to steal. Indonesian idioms like this are deeply tied to culture and for any machine translate to handle correctly. Now, not all machines make the same kind of mistake. Google Translate tends to be very literal. It translates word by word. ChatGPT is more flexible and produces output that sounds more natural. In 2024, Google Translate used a literal strategy in 76% of idiomatic cases, while ChatGPT did so in only 53%. So ChatGPT tries harder to produce meaning-based translation, but they actually create different kind of problem which I'll explain soon. Next slide, please. So several studies have already ChatGPT and Google Translate, compared ChatGPT and Google Translate. Like Obedient et al. Look at Arabic English idiom, Agile Penggabean, and Kolega compare the two tools on Indonesian academic text, and Gaul and Demanik examine lexical ambiguity in Indonesian English translation. But here's the gap. All of these studies focus on what the machine produces, not on what the student can detect. And none of them specifically measure student errors detection competence using Indonesian idioms in a quantitative comparison. That's exactly the gap this research is designed to fill. Next slide, please. So based on that gap, I have three research questions. First, how accurately can sixth semester EFL students detect translation errors in Google Translate? Second, how accurately can they detect errors in ChatGPT output? And third, is there a statistically significant difference between the two? So my hypothesis is this. A student will catch error in Google Translate more easily than in ChatGPT because ChatGPT output sounds so natural that the mistake become much harder to notice. This is what I call deceptive fluency, which brings me to the theoretical framework. Next slide, please. The first theoretical concept is from Baker's taxonomy of idioms. Translation strategy from her 2018 book. Baker explained that when we translating an idiom, there are four strategies available. Strategy A is find a target idiom with the same meaning and similar form. For example, translating panjang tangan as light finger. Strategy B use an idiom with the same meaning but a different form like a sticky finger. Strategy C paraphrase the idiom when there's no equivalent. And strategy D omit it entirely when the meaning simply cannot be transferred. So the key idea for this research is that translation errors occurred when the machine picked the wrong strategy. When Google Translate literally translate a culturally loaded idiom word for word, the strategy error. And the question is, can students recognize it? So next slide. And the second concept is machine translate literacy by Bowker and Zero in 2019. Just like media literacy means reading the news critically, empty literacy means critically evaluating what a machine has translated, understanding how the system works, and questioning whether the output is actually accurate. This is why I chose a six semester student, especially not just by year level, but because their complete translation 1 and 2, giving them the formal background to critically engage with machine output. And the third, the most central concept is deceptive fluency. This builds on the fluency heuristic from Oppenheimer in 28. Our brains tend to assume the text we stand smoothly is more likely to be correct. ChatGPT is designed to produce smooth, natural-sounding text that's usually good, but in translation, it creates a blind spot. So next slide. Yeah. Now, for the methodology, this study uses it quantitative comparative descriptive design. Sample plot, I'm comparing two set of numerical score, how students perform on Google Translate error detection versus ChatGPT error detection, and testing whether the difference is statistically meaningful. So my population is 6 semester English education student. I use purposive sampling. Participant must have complete translation 1 and translation 2, be in 6 semester during the data collection, and provide informed consent. My minimum sample is 30 participants, which is determined through a power analysis with alpha 0.05, power 0.80, and a medium effect size. A statistically grounded a minimum, not a guess. Next slide, please. The instrument is the translation error identification test, or TAIT. It contains 20 Indonesian idioms. It's presented with two translations, one from Google Translate now and one from ChatGPT. But participants don't know which is which. The blind test design eliminates any bias that might come from recognizing a brand name. For each item, student read accurate, primarily accurate, or inaccurate, and identify the error types using Baker's taxonomy, which is provided as a reference. Scoring is 1.4 correct detection, half point for partial, and 0 for missing it. Maximum score for tools is 20. The answer key is developed by two certified translation instructor with uh, inter-rater agreement checked using Cohen kappa requiring at least 0.17. Next slide, please. The test is administered controlling classroom setting. Participants at the same time with standardized explanation. 16 minutes, no external tools allow. Analysis happen in two phases. Phase 1 is descriptive. I look at the main standard deviation and score distribution for each tool. Phase 2 is inferential. I use a paired sample t-test, which is the right choice because a student answer for both tools. Their scores are directly paired. Normally is checked first with Sapphire wheel. If the assumption is violated, I switch to the Wilson sign and run the test. Everything is processed in SPSS version 26 with significant threshold of P less than 0.05. Next slide, please. So, why does this study matter? Theoretically, it adds new empirical data to the intersection of MT evaluation and learner perception decision. particularly for the Indonesian English language pair, which is still underrepresented in global MT literacy literature. So practically, if the finding confirms that students miss more error in ChatGPT output due to deceptive fluency, that becomes a conflict. Evidence-based reason to decide post-editing modules in translating courses, and to raise student awareness about the real risk of overrelying on AI tools. Next slide, please. To work up, the study addressed a gap that hasn't been filled yet. Like no previous research has quantitatively measured how well EFL students detect Indonesian idiom translation error produced by AI, comparing Google Translate and ChatGPT from the learner's perspective. With a blind test design, Baker taxonomy as the evaluative framework, and a parity test for statistical analysis, I believe the research is both timely and methodological sound. So thank you very much for your attention. That's all from me. Back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Nabila Septiani. So, next presenter is Regina Azzahra, the ninth presenter. Regina Azzahra, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Brigita. Astried, can you please show the PPT? Okay, thank you, Astrid. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity given to me. My name is Regina Azzahra. My ID number is 222-3230-131. Today, I would like to present my seminar proposal entitled From Digital Interaction to Knowledge Development, Students' Perception of Social Media as a Learning Resources. In this presentation, I will explain the background of study, research problem, research objective, theoretical framework, and research methodology. Now, I would like to begin with the background of the study. Next slide, please. Okay, the first is the rapid development of digital technology has transformed the way English is learned, and though learning is no longer limited to the classroom and textbook, but has expanded into digital platform that allow students to access materials anytime and anywhere. One of the most widely used platform is social media such as Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, which are not only used for entertainment but also as learning resources. Though this platform, students can interact, share ideas, and practice English in real life context, making learning more flexible and engaging. According to Bond et al. 2020, however, most previous studies mainly focus on general aspects such as students' motivation, engagement, or vocabulary development. There is still limited research that explores student perception of using social media as a learning resource and how it specifically contribute to the development of communication skills. Therefore, this study focuses on examining student perception and the role of social media in enhancing their communication skills. The next slide, please. For research problem, the first is despite the whisper use of social media in English learning, it remains unclear how students perceive its role as a learning resource and how it contributes to the development of their communication skill. The second, most previous studies have focused on motivation and engagement, while limited research has explored student perception and experience in depth. The third is therefore the study seeks to investigate students' perception and examine the role of social media in developing communication skills. Next. The research question are designed to explore student perception, analyze the role of social media in communication skill development, and identify specific activities that support the learning process. Uh, the question, the first question is how do students perceive the use of social media as learning resource in English learning? The second question is how does social media contribute to the development of student communication skill? And the last question is what types of activities on social media support students communication skill development? Next slide. There are three research objectives. The objective of the study are to explore student perception, analyze the role of social media in developing communication skill, and the last is identify the activities that support the learning process. Next slide. Okay, the next slide is theoretical framework and conceptual framework. This this study is based on the idea that digital technology, especially social media, support interactive learning. Social media provide authentic language use, which helps develop communication skill. However, the effectiveness depends on student perception. If students perceive it positively, it can enhance their learning outcomes. Next slide. Next is research design and method. This study used a qualitative descriptive method because it aims to explore student perception and experience in depth. Qualitative research is chosen since this study does not focus on numerical data, but rather on understanding how students interpret and experience the use of social media in their learning process. The disparate approach is used to provide a clear and detailed description of students' perspective without manipulating any variables. In the study, the researchers uh, in this study uh, focus on how students use social media, what they experience during the learning process, and how it contributes to the development of their communication skills. For the method is considered appropriate to gain deeper insight into students' perception and to understand the role of social media in English language learning. Next slide. For the participant of this study are English education students who are selected using purposive sampling. They are chosen based on specific criteria, especially their experience in using social media for learning English. For example, students who actively use platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok and have experience learning English the these platforms. The number of participants in this study is estimated to be around 10 to 20 students. This number is considered sufficient to provide in-depth and meaningful data for qualitative research. Next slide. The last one is data collection and instrument. The study used two main instruments uh, to collect data, namely an open-ended questionnaire and a semi-structured interview. The open-end questionnaire is used to gather initial data about student experience and perception in using social media for learning English. This type of questionnaire allows students to express their opinions freely and in detail. Meanwhile, the semi-structured interview is conducted to obtain deeper information and to explore students' respond further. The research can ask follow-up questions based on participant answer. These instruments are designed based on the main concept of the study, including social media use, student perception, and communication skill, so that the data collected is relevant to the research objective. Next. And this is the selected biography I use from this seminar proposal. Next. The study focused on student perception and the role of social media communication skill development. Using qualitative descriptive method, the data are collected through questionnaires and interactive to gain in-depth insight. The study is expected to provide useful contribute to English language learning. Thank you. That's all for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Regina Azzahra. Next presenter is Siti Muizah. So for Siti Muizah, you can share your presentation.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Astried, could you please show my PPT? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Siti Muizah. My student number is 2223230077. So today I would like to present my seminar proposal entitled The Use of English Pillars Among Universitas Sultan Ageng Tirta as a Student in Classroom Presentation. Okay, next slide, please. For background of the research for this proposal, English is a crucial global communication tool for environmental adaptation and future careers. Expanding upon this, English has become the most important component of the key that opens the door to broader communication and lead to potential work on global levels. And in Indonesia, the implementation of the current curriculum, as we know as curriculum Merdeka, demands student-centered learning to develop active language skill, especially English language, for global career preparation. And however, data from the EF English Proficiency Index 2025 shows that Indonesia speaking skills remain low, is already in ranks 18 in the global ranking, and thus people find the struggle in speaking English. In the university context, students often face significant challenges when delivering oral presentation in front of the class. While ideally presentation should be fluent and effective, pauses often occur, and to bridge these barriers and avoid awkward silence, students instinctively use English fillers. And sometimes student finds difficulty when speaking in front of class when presentation. It's because they are feel stuttering, mental block, pronunciation, about translation and nervousness, and low level confidence and fear of being judged. So that's why they use English fillers. So what is English fillers? English fillers is uh, to bridge the speech and prevent uncomfortable silence. And for the types of fillers is about lexical such as well, you know, and unlexical such as serve as tools to create thinking time. However, excessive use can diminish professionalism and the clarity of the message. The study aims to delve deeper into dominant types of fillers and the internal and external factors influencing their use among Untirta students. Next slide, please. Okay, for the research gap, several studies have explored this phenomenon, such as Fitriati et al. 2021 found that advanced master students often experience difficulties in conversation, leading them to use fillers, such as lexical fillers, particularly use so, and unlexical fillers, particularly use are the most frequently used types. And from this study, it found that fillers are used as hesitation, empathy, mitigation, time creating devices, and term editing. For the other study, Ulpia 2025 found that students often use unlexical such as or when pausing and thinking about the next word, and lexical you know or I mean were used more deliberately to provide clarification or elaboration. And the other studies, Cahya et al. 2025 found that 72.5% of unlexical fillers, namely and were used when retrieval difficulties or spontaneously formulated ideas were encountered, while lexical you know and well were used when clarifying intention. Despite the findings above, the three articles focus on internal speaker factors, while external contribute to the limited use of English fillers. Furthermore, the context of speaking in front of class, such as presentation, can be influenced by factors such as uh, atmosphere, classroom atmosphere, audience's reaction, and the presence of the teacher or lecturer. So therefore, this study will delve deeper into the types of filler use as well as the internal and external factors that influence the use of English fillers during English presentation in front of the class. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this research, I'll have three research questions. The first is what types of English fillers are commonly used by students during classroom presentation? The second, what are the factors this student tend to use specific fillers in classroom presentation? And the third, how do these fillers function within the student speech during classroom presentation? Okay, next slide. Okay. Based on the issues described above, this research aims to achieve the following objectives, such as first, to identify the most dominant types of English fillers used by university students during classroom presentation. Second, to describe the factor of using English fillers in classroom presentation. And the third, to describe the function of using English fillers from the student perspective. Next slide, please. research significance. So investigating English fillers is crucial for several reasons, and this is having significances. First, for student, it can understanding their filler patterns can increase self-awareness and help them develop strategies to boost their confidence in public speaking. And the second, for educators, this research provide insight into the specific struggles students face, allowing to use appropriate learning technique in speaking classes. Next slide, please. The theoretical framework. There are some theory used in this research. First, speaking. According to Brown, 2004, speaking is a productive skill of constructing meaning that involves producing, receiving, and processing information. And in his book, Brown also wrote about the basic type of speaking, including imitative, intensive, interactive, and extensive. And next, about fluency, Richards, 2006. Fluency is the natural language use that happens when a speaker interacts meaningfully and continues to communicate in a way that is understandable even when their communicative skill is limited. And Fillmore, 1979, as cited in McCarthy 2005, said that fluency is the capacity to speak for extended periods of the time without unusual pauses, to speak logically, to use semantically complex sentences, to have relevant things to say in a variety of circumstances, and to use language creatively and imaginatively. Next slide, please. Okay, English fillers. So fillers are markers that speakers use to fill in the silence during a speech or discussion as they consider what to say next, referred to as pause fillers or hesitation signals. Fillers primarily occur when people communicate in a foreign language, and learners occasionally have trouble speaking their target language, particularly when speaking spontaneously. So, as a result, people frequently hesitate and halt as well as fillers. So, from Ross, 1998, brings the phenomenon about these English fillers or fill pauses into two categories. First is English fillers and lexicalism. And lexicalism is vocalized in a variety of ways in the form of a sound and has no meaning, might be using phonetic combination. For example, is um, some things like that. And the next is lexical, words that have lexical meaning but are used by the speaker only to fill time or pauses. For example, is like well, so okay, let's see, etc. Next slide, please. Classroom presentation. Classroom presentation is a common academic task where students deliver a speech or report on a specific topic. Students must gather the information, define the content, and develop their speaking abilities in order to present what they have prepared. Additionally, students need to be courageous and used to speak in front of large crowds, especially in front of the class. Oral presentation in the classroom indirectly help pupils develop their confidence and speaking abilities. This aims to help undergraduates become more proficient and self-assured communication in the target language, cited Ahmad et al. 2022. Next slide, please. Okay, related study. Several studies have investigated the use of fillers in spoken English. Fillers are commonly used as hesitation markers that help speakers manage pauses and maintain the flow of speech. And a study by Clark and Foxtree, 2002, explored the role of fillers in speech processing. The results shows that fillers such as and are used when deciding how to pause and whether to extend a sentence. And are conventional English words. and speakers plan, formulate, and produce them just like any other word. So another study by Fitriati et al. 2021 examined the use of fillers in casual English conversation by English language education master's student at a state university in Semarang. Students more frequently use lexical fillers, meaningful words like so. Fillers are used for hesitation, empathy, mitigation, time creating devices, and term editing. Next slide, please. Methodology. Research design. This research employs a qualitative method. This study explores the complex ideas of filler type or kinds, factors, and function within the presentation context, and rather than measuring relationship between variables. And for the population and sample, the research will be conducted at Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa University with the subjects being with the population being 6 semester English education student in FK Puntirta. For time efficiency, purposive sampling will be used and the population will be taken for one class, a 6 semester English department in FK Puntirta, and then it will be divided in a sample of consists 5 people. Next slide, please. For the research instrument, the research instrument consists of a primary instrument and supporting instrument designed to obtain in-depth data. The researcher acted as the primary instrument, planning, collecting, and analyzing the data directly. As a supporting instrument, the researcher used an initial questionnaire distributed via Google Form as a screening tool to select participants who met the research criteria. So this questionnaire will using Likert scale of 1 to 5. And the next is semi-structured interview. So after selecting from questionnaire, so 5 students will be selected to conducting interview, a semi-structured interview, and the researcher will use observation on interview sheet consisting of list of questions that will deliver to an interviewee, and during the interview, researcher will recording the interview to having the data. Next slide, please. For the data collection, a questionnaire to find possible students who often use English fillers and are open to taking part in the study, a screening questionnaire is sent out via Google Form, and the form will send out to one class of English department 6 semester students consists of 31 students. And the next semi-structured interview, 5 chosen participants are interviewed in a semi-structured manner. Okay, next slide, please. Data analysis. Preliminary analysis using questionnaire. So the initial data collected through the questionnaire will be analyzed using the response summary feature in Google Forms. The result automatically presented in graphs and percentage will be used to map general patterns of filler used across our class member. And the next is in-depth analysis interview. So for in-depth analysis using Miles, Haberman, and Saldana theories about analysis data. So the first is data reduction. Data reduction includes the activities of selecting, focusing, simplifying, and transforming raw data obtained from written notes on site. It is not simply a process of selecting data, but rather a form of analysis that sharpen, groups, directs, discard unnecessary data, and organize data in such a way as to draw valid and accountable conclusion. And the next step is the data display. This process enables researchers to present research data in an easily understood format, whether through these descriptive narratives, tables, charts, or graphs that demonstrate the relationship between the phenomena being studied. And the last step is conclusion. This conclusion drawing begins during the data collection process on site. In other words, researchers must strive to understand the meaning of the data obtained. Conclusion should be clear, should be based on the data obtained in the research, not on the research on desire, or not on the research opinion. Next slide, please. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Siti Muizah. Next presenter is Indah Cahya Ratri. So, for Indah Cahya Ratri, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Astried. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Professor Dr. Safrizal MPD. Good morning, everyone. First, let us thank God for giving us the health together in this Zoom today. I want to also say thank you to moderator for giving me the chance to present my research proposal this morning. Next slide, please. My name is Indah Cahya Ratri Laksmi Kartika Maharani. My student ID is 222-323-0057 and I am from 6D. Today I want to present my research proposal. The title is Differences in Learning Strategy Used Between English Education Students Who Prefer Online versus Face-to-Face Learning. Next slide. Let's start with the background of the study. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic caused big changes in education. We had to change from normal face-to-face classes to fully online and hybrid learning. Now, after the pandemic, we often use hybrid learning. Because of this, students have developed different choices. Some students prefer online learning, but others really prefer to learn face-to-face in a classroom. Why is this important for learning English? Learning is a language, is an active process. We have to use learning strategies. According to Rebecca Oxford, students must use different strategies like memory, cognitive, and social strategy to learn a language well. The core issue is we want to know how a student's choice of learning, which is online and face-to-face learning, affect how they study. Does learning behind a computer or handphone screen change how they study compared to sitting in a real class? Next slide, please. Next, we have the problem formulation and the research gap. If you read all studies, many of them talk about language learning strategies. Other studies talk about students' happiness in online learning, but most of these studies only discuss learning with students who like face-to-face learning. So there is a missing information, especially for English students in Indonesia. So because of this, my research has two main questions. First, are there big differences in learning strategies between students who prefer online learning and students who prefer face-to-face learning? And the second is which specific across the five learning strategy categories, which is cognitive, metacognitive, social or affective, memory, and compensatory. Next slide, please. From those questions, this research has two goals. The primary objective is to find out if there is a real difference in how often the two groups use learning strategies. I will compare the online group and the face-to-face group. And the secondary objective is to look deeper. It aims to find which specific strategy like cognitive, metacognitive, social or affective, memory, and compensation has the biggest difference between the two groups. Next slide, please. So I believe this research will be useful in three ways. First, theoretically, and the second, practically, and the third, institutionally. For the first, theoretically, it will help us to understand more about self-regulated learning, or SRL. It shows how the students' study place, like digital or physical, changes their study habits today. And the second is practically. This research gives good information for especially lecture. For example, if the data shows that online students have problem with social strategies, lectures can give more virtual group work to help them. And the last is institutionally. This research gives real data for the English education department. It will help the university plan better hybrid class in the future. Next slide. So to make this research strong, I use three main topics from the literature. First, learning mode preference. I use the technology acceptance models, or TAM, and social presence theory. This explains why students choose a learning style, like because it is easy or because they need to interact with friends. And the second is language learning strategy based on Oxford Strategy Inventory for Language Learning, or SILL, and Zimmerman SRL theory, five main dimensions like cognitive, metacognitive, memory, and social, affective, and compensation. And the third is preferred study. Past research show that students use different strategies in different situations. For example, students who prefer online class might use translation tools more, while face-to-face learning, students may ask their friends directly. Next slide, please. Here's the conceptual framework. It shows the connection between the variables. At the top, I have a variable X, or learning mode preference. This is divided into students who prefer online learning and those who prefer face-to-face learning. The arrows point down to variable Y, which is learning strategy used. At the bottom, you can see variable Y is measured by the five sub-strategies made by Oxford, like cognitive, metacognitive, social, affective, memory, and compensation. Next slide, please. So uh, So the hypothesis for this are the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis says there is no significant difference in learning strategies between students who prefer online learning and students who prefer face-to-face learning. And for the alternative hypothesis says there is a significant differences between the two groups. Next slide, please. So to test the hypothesis, I will use a quantitative causal comparative method, or ex post facto design. This means the independent variable, like student preference, is already there and I cannot change it. And the participants are undergraduate students in second semester, fourth semester, and sixth semester. I choose them because they have experience in university learning. I will use convenient sampling to get at least 60 students, so there are 30 students for each group. For data collection, I will use a Google form. There is two questionnaire, one to know their learning preference and another to measure their learning strategies. And the last, I will analyze the data using the SPSS program and the independent samples t-test using SPSS2. Next slide. The target audience is the students of the English Education Department at Universitas Sultan Agung Tirtayasa, and the timeline has four steps. And the first step is making the instrument and testing it. The second step is sharing the questionnaire to get the data, and the third step is checking the data and doing the SPSS analysis. And the last is writing the final report and doing the thesis defense. Next slide, please. Here are some of the main books and journal I use. They include recent studies from 2023 and 2024 about students' learning preferences after the pandemic, and also methodology books by Frankel, Wallen, and Hyun, 2016. Next slide, please. That's all from my proposal presentation today. Thank you very much, Professor Shafrizal, and everyone for your time and attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Indah Cahya, for your presentation. Finally, everyone, we have reached our 11th presenter to Dina Rokhanipah. Time is yours.
Is my voice clear? Okay. Good morning, Professor Dr. Safrizal MPD, moderator, and everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dina Rokhanipah from class 6D. My student number is 222-323-0076. I'm very honored to present my research proposal. The title is English Learning Motivation and Academic Performance, a systematic review of the relationship. Next slide, please. So let's start with the background of the study. As we all know, English is a global language that is essential for students to learn it successfully. Student needs motivation. Motivation acts as a psychological niche that drive learning effort and persistence. However, when I review previous empirical study, I found inconsistent result. Some researchers found a strong connection between motivation and academic scores, while others found weak or context-dependent connection. Because of these weak findings, there is a research gap. We currently lack a contemporary systematic review that synthesize all these quantitative findings to identify the overall pattern. That is why this research is needed. Next slide, please. Based on the background, I formulate two main research questions. The first is the main relationship. What do previous quantitative studies reveal about the overreaching relationship between English learning motivation and academic performance? Second question is regarding motivation types. Is intrinsic motivation, which comes from inside the learner, consistently report as a stronger predictor or academic success compared to extrinsic motivation. Next slide, please. Okay, to answer this question, this research has three main objectives. Number one is to systematically identify the critically review quantitative studies that examine the relationship between motivation and performance. Number two is to analyze and compare the statistical findings such as correlation, coincidentation across different contexts. The number three or the last is to determine whether intrinsic motivation demonstrate a stronger statistical association with academic outcomes than extrinsic motivation. Next slide, please. So moving on to the significance of the study, this research is expanded to provide benefit for parties. For the first is for researchers, is provide a systemized overview of quantitative evidence for future studies. The second is for teacher is our empirical insight to design more effective classroom motivational strategy. The next is for curriculum designers. It support formal English curriculum. And finally, for the students is increase their self-awareness regarding the critical importance of motivation in language acquisition. The next slide, please. Yeah, the literature review. This study focused on two main constructs. The first is English motivation, which is categorized mainly into intrinsic versus extrinsic based on self-determination theory, and integrative versus instrumental orientation based on Gardner's social educational model. Second is academic performance, which is objectively measured via standardized tests like TOEFL or GPA. The theoretical foundation of this research are self-determination theory or SDT, which focus on human physiological needs like autonomy and competence, and the L2 motivational self system, which explore how a student's vision of their ideal self drive their learning. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the conceptual framework of the study. It maps the direct relationship between our variables. The independent variables or X is English learning motivation, which comprises intrinsic, extrinsic, integrative, and instrumental orientation. And the dependent variable or Y is academic performance measured by GPA, test score, or proficiency level. The arrow in the middle represent the impact or relationship that this systematic review aims to analyze. Yeah. So based on the theoretical framework and previous study, the alternative hypothesis for this research is a positive link between English learning motivation and academic achievement is found consistently across the literature review of quantitative research studies. Next slide, please. Okay, now let's discuss the research methodology. The research design is a systematic quantitative review. I will not collect new data from students, but rather aggregate statistic from existing correlational and experimental research. For sampling, I will use purposive database sampling covering journal article published from 2015 to 2025 across Eric or Scopus. An instrument is a data extraction from or coding sheet validated through expert judgment and pilot testing. And finally, the analysis plan include descriptive synthesis and analysis and effect size interpretation, especially looking at personal's error correlation value. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide show my research timeline, which is divided into 4 phases. Phase 1 is database identification and keyword screening. Phase 2 is full text eligibility assessment and quality appraisal. Phase 3 is resource data extraction using the validated coding set. And the last phase is statistical synthesis and final reporting. So the final target audience for this finding include EFL and ESL educators, apply linguistic researchers, and curriculum developers. Next slide, please. Okay, here's some bibliography showing some of primary reference I used to build this proposal. It includes recent empirical studies by Indonesian researchers such as Amelia and Dwina Dalida, and as well as core theoretical papers by Rian or Faliki Fard. Next slide, please. Okay, that's bring me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dina Rokhanipah. So, everyone, now that all 11 presenters have shared their research plans, we move to the most important part, the question, answers, and feedback session. For who wanna ask, please raise your hand and please mention the presenter's name, who you wanna ask. And for the presenters, please respond to the questions. Regina, can you tell your question?
Okay, I have question for Indah Cahya. The question is, since this study relies on questionnaires and self-reported data from students, how can you, as the research, be sure that the result reflect real different in learning strategies, not just different in how students perceive or report themselves? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Regina Azzahra. For Indah Cahya, you can prepare the answers. And if you have the answers, you can say.
Okay, thank you, Regina, for the question. So I will answer your question. So in research, this is called self-report bias, where students might try to look like a good student on paper. To make sure my data is valid, I rely on the validity of the instrument itself. Oxford Strategy Inventory for Language Learning, or SILL, is highly reliable and has specific questions about action, not just an opinion from the students. For example, it asks, I use a flashcard to remember words, which is a real action they can report. Also, I will guarantee confidentially if students know their answer won't impact their grades. The bias can goes down. In the future, a mixed method study with interview could double check this problem. But my current quantitative scope is this validate questionnaire is the strongest tool to find the big patterns. That's all for me. Back to moderator.
Yeah, thank you, Indah Cahya, for the answers. Next question may be from Nihlatunnajwa, who will raise your hand. Please tell your questions.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I will give questions for Dina Rokhanipah, and my question is academic. Okay, sorry. In your proposal, you say that academic performance is measured using various indicators such as GPA, TOEFL scores, and etc. And how do you ensure that these indicators have comparable levels of validity so they can be fairly analyzed and compared? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihlatunnajwa. Presenter 11, Dina Rokhanipah, you can prepare the answers. And you can say that.
Okay, thank you for the question, Nihla. To make a fair comparison between the different indicator like GPA and TOEFL, I will not compare the raw scores directly because they have different scales. Instead, I will focus on comparing their effect size or the correlation coefficient. This means I will measure how strong the relationship between the motivation and performance in each study, regardless of the test they use. So the second, to ensure the validity, I will not include high qual- uh, quality studies that report strong reliability, such as Conbench Alpha scores above 0.70. During the analysis, I will also group the data based on the assessment type. I will separate study that use school grades and studies that use standardized tests so we can see the result clearly and fairly. I hope this answer your question. Uh, Thank you.
Thank you, Dina Rokhanipah. Everyone, because time is limit, I will end this Q&A session and move to feedback session. I would like to invite our honorable examiners to provide their critiques, suggestion, or questions to the presenters. We will start with the first examiner, Professor Dr. Syafrizal MPD. Time is yours. Yeah, thank you, Professor Syafrizal. So, thank you very much to the board of examiners for the invaluable insights and constructive feedback. I hope all 11 presenters have taken detailed notes for their revisions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached the end of today's seminar. Congratulations to all 11 students for completing your proposal presentations. I would like to thank our examiners once again for their time and guidance, and all participants for their attention. Let's conclude this session. I am Brigita Natalia, and it has been a pleasure moderating this seminar. Stay healthy and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. For everyone, before we end this session, let us take picture together. Are you ready? We will take the picture from me, okay? Show your gaya-gaya. We will take the picture in 3, 2, mana ya? Kok nggak bisa? 3, 2, 1. Please hold on everyone. Aduh, muka saya Komuk banget. Oke, again, show your Okay, once again, everyone, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, only 3 pictures. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Selamat melanjutkan ya.
Congratulations, guys.
Tutup.